We are Group 7, and our project is called Selectt. It is a simple, anonymous polling web application. My name is Kyle, and I was a developer. Also on the team is Jacob, who is the product owner, Jonathan, who is a developer, Adam, who is a developer, Yasmin, who is our Scrum Master, and Andrew, who was a developer. All right, so I'll start us off with Phase 1 project development. First, we have our problem statement, which is polling anonymity is extremely important, meaning that a vote of an individual should not be tied to that individual. So a fully functional web application that will allow anonymous voting and polling will be developed. Users will be able to register, create polls, and invite others to vote via an email link. This system will handle the integrity of a vote per person to ensure an accurate vote count, user privacy, anonymity. Voters will be aggregated in the database so that individual votes will not be stored in the system. Next, we had 4 objectives, which were allow registered users to create anonymous polls by inviting people to vote by email, allow invited voters to vote without registering in the system, store the votes in such a way that they cannot be tied to individual votes, allow voters to see live vote count as soon as they vote. This is a list of our functional and non-functional requirements. Some important ones to note are anyone should be able to register into the system. Registered users can create polls. Registered users can invite people to vote on the polls via an email. Creator of polls and voters can see aggregated results. And it is limited to 1 vote per poll per email. Next is our technologies and tools that we use for the development of this project. First, for our development platform, we had Windows and ASP.NET. Programming languages, we had C# and JavaScript. For the database, we use SQL Server Express. For security techniques, we had password hashing, email verification, two-factor authentication, and HTTPS. For hardware, any device with a web browser and a Windows web server for hosting the application. And for collaboration, we use Discord to communicate, Google Drive to store our documents, and GitHub for collaboration on the code. Our target environment, users will be able to access the web application on any device that has a web browser. So we chose the Scrum model for our development process, and based on our group's ability to work on the project incrementally, many of our requirements were non-functional, so using this model allowed for each sprint to include functioning deliverables. And using Scrum helped our group to be organized and maintain focus. And for the risks, we had learning curve. Going into this project, some team members were unfamiliar with the technologies. ASP.NET and MVC was new to most of the group and had to be learned by most of us. Like any project, scheduling conflicts are always an issue. Team members could have difficult time scheduling meetings that work for each member of the group. This proved more difficult as the time went on. And for our last risk, team members dropping the course, this wasn't necessarily a big risk we were thinking about, but with Scrum focusing on division of roles, a team member dropping the course could have caused a problem that would require a complete reevaluation of the roles.
So our next section is requirements analysis and design modeling. This is our use case diagram. We have the primary actors on the left, which are the pollster who creates and manages polls. We have the respondent who responds to polls and views them. The system administrator is responsible for managing the pollsters. On the right, we have the secondary actors. The database system stores all the information about the polls, the pollsters, and the respondents. The email system emails unique voting links to poll respondents and email account-related information, such as a requested password change. Our use cases are manage polls, manage respondents, manage pollsters, view poll results, and process votes. This is our domain class diagram. The respondent responds to a poll. The poll displays answers. The answer aggregates responses. And the pollster manages polls. Each of those has its own attributes. This is our design class diagram. It is the same as the domain class diagram, but it also adds navigability between the classes, and it adds all the operations and all the data types.
Okay, so this is our fully addressed use case for managing polls. This is for a pollster who wants to create, update polls quickly and easily. So first, the pollster chooses to create a poll, and then they're presented with a poll creation screen by the system. The pollster is then able to select poll options, specifically inputting a question, inputting possible answers, and then submitting all that inputted data. The system is then going to record all the options that they inputted, like the question and the answers. And then once all that is done, the pollster is going to receive a success message. If the poll was already created, then the pollster can actually just choose to edit it. They don't have to create an entirely new poll. This is our fully addressed use case for managing respondents. This is for a pollster who wants to modify the respondents who have access to the poll. The use case describes managing respondents on a poll that has already been created. So first, a pollster is going to select an already created poll, and then that pollster adds the email addresses of the poll respondents. The pollster is then going to submit the list of email addresses, and an email is going to be sent to each respondent with a unique link to the poll that's going to allow them to vote once. Once all that's done, the pollster is going to receive a success message like when they created the poll.
Our next use case is managing pollsters. This use case covers when a system administrator or pollster needs to manage a pollster account. So for this, the pollster would provide their login credentials in order to access their account, and they would select the change password option, and they would then be prompted to input a new password and then submit the new password that they typed in. The system will then record this new password, and the system will send an email to the pollster notifying them of a password change. The pollster is then shown a confirmation of a successful password change. The next use case is processing votes. This is for respondents that want their votes recorded anonymously. So for this use case, a respondent would arrive at the poll by clicking on the invitation link that was sent out by the system, and then the respondent would then view the poll and be able to respond to it. They would select their response and then submit it. The system will then record the vote and will mark the respondent as voted. The respondent is then shown the results page.
This is the dressed up use case for the view poll results. This case covers a pollster or respondent viewing the results of a poll that they have created or which they have responded to. Here, the user or pollster or the user requests results of a poll, where then it sends a token, and if the token is validated, then the votes are counted. Once the votes have been counted, the results are sent back to the user. The results page is dynamic, so if the poll is still open and receiving responses, the page will update in real time.
All right, and now we're going to pass it over to Jazz for the demo.
All right, thank you. Now that my partners have given you an idea of the Selectt system, I, Jazz, will be running you through a demonstration of our project. To begin with, when you first reach the Selectt landing page, you'll be greeted by several redundant buttons. First, you can register an account. We already registered an account, so we'll just go and log in. Once logged in, you'll be greeted and directed to the polls page. The polls page contains any polls that you wish to create. If we click on the About page, you can see a bunch of information with regarding the technologies we use, the content we created, why we made it, and so on. Now we're going to go back to the polls page, and we're going to talk about creating our first poll. Now, to make our first poll, we'll simply click Create a New Poll. Once you click the Create a Poll button, you'll be prompted via a ballot-style box to input some poll information. The name of your poll, the question you wish to ask your respondents. You can choose to select an end time for which all polls must be submitted by, and you can choose whether or not you want to make your results public. For our poll, I'm dying to know who I think will win in a fight. So we will name our poll, Who Would Win? We will designate our question, which of the following would win in a battle royale consisting of all the present answers? We'll set a time. Let's do tomorrow. And we'll set our results to public. Now we can create our poll. Here on the poll page, you have a couple of options, all of which confirm every decision that you wish to make about your poll. You can choose to delete your poll. You can choose to review your poll. You can choose to send your poll, and you can choose to edit your poll. We are interested in first editing our poll. You can really quickly confirm the information you want. Make sure that you have the corrected options. Once you've done adding your answers and respondents, you click Save, and you're good to go. First, we will start by adding a couple of answers. So in our fight, we want to see how 3 gorilla monkeys would do. Add another answer. 5 leopards versus the 3 gorilla monkeys. A mantis shrimp? I think a mantis shrimp would be good. Versus the gorilla monkeys and the leopards. 2 grizzly bears. I think 2 grizzly bears is pretty competitive, don't you? 10,000 rats. Surely a powerhouse. And finally, let's throw in a wrench in the mix. We'll do 1 mecha gorilla monkey with flamethrower rocket arms. It's a good one. Now that we have our answers, we can add a respondent. Realistically, the only person who really cares about this poll is me, and the only person whose opinion really counts is me. So we're going to add me to the list. Very simple. Now we're going to add a couple more respondents. We'll add the team members. Our next email. Fourth email. Fifth email. And 6th. Make sure we're happy with our contents. Click Save and move on to the next portion. Now, once you have your email specified, you can do several different things. You could obviously delete it, but we don't want to do that. We could view information. We could edit it some more. We don't really need to edit it. And lastly, we can send your poll. It is important to note that once you send your poll, you can no longer edit it. So we're going to confirm our information here, send the poll, and we await for our respondents to give an answer.
A few moments later.
Now, a respondent, when they receive an email, their email will look like this from the Selectt system, and they will click here to vote. On the voting screen, they can make one of our many choices. Personally, I think the 10,000 rats are a powerhouse. I think those are going to win. Now, as a respondent, you can see we're not logged in here. We don't have access to it. But we can view the results of our page. We can see what everyone had voted for, assuming that the option was checked. As a user or as a viewer, you have the option of reviewing the tabular format of votes or toggling between a bar graph and a bar chart, both of which are pretty valid. Now, in addition, if you were curious about who voted or not, we could go back to the polls page and select poll details, and you could view individually to see, oh, has this person voted yet? Maybe this person. Now, if you want to change your password, simply click on the link in the top right next to the hello and select Change Your Password. Here, you can confirm your current information to change it. I want to thank everyone for watching us in our demonstration and giving us the time of the day. We're going to sign out. On behalf of the Selectt team, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. And again, thank you.
Here is a list of the references that we used when making this project, and that's going to be it for us.